Okay, welcome
Perfect.
to our Alumni Pathway interview with Masatoki. Masatoki is live in the US right now, is that right?
No, that is actually wrong. I'm
Oh,
calling from Milan, Italy.
oh, even cooler. So this is awesome. Masatoki has said that he has a bit of a non-traditional pathway that he's chosen. And so, Masatoki, would you be able to tell us about that?
Sure. So, just briefly, after graduating from UNIS, I knew I wanted to become a doctor, get into medical school. So I went back to the US where I was originally from, and went through undergrad. And I started applying for schools. Um, didn't go quite successfully, so took sort of a like a side uh, sort of took a different route and worked with people with disabilities or physical or mental developmental disabilities as I was applying. And then eventually found out I didn't want to do medicine in the US. So started applying abroad. And now I go to medical school here in Milan, Italy.
Wow. And tell us about that. Like, what's that application? So you finished a bachelor's degree in America,
Yes.
and that was in kinesiology, is that right?
Right. Yeah. So that's sort of like sports science, sports medicine. Um, people who like to get into athletic fields, they would all mostly start from that bachelor's degree. And I did it because I was interested in human body, but not so much the athleticism aspect of the course. Um, but it did give me the knowledge required to get into medical school. Um, I also did a study abroad in France for a year and minored in chemistry. So I was science heavy um, during university and also during IB as well. Um, but yeah, and then after changing my mind, I just started applying abroad, and yeah, didn't take too long from there.
And how many different countries did you apply to in Europe? Or which countries did you
Uh,
apply to?
just two actually, Israel and Italy.
And what had you choosing those two countries?
I was talking to a few of my friends. If you're doing undergrad in the U.S. and looking to get into medical school in the U.S., you're not advised to go to international schools for medical school. Um, but I wasn't looking back to look. I wasn't looking to going back to the states afterwards. I wanted to leave the states completely, and so I felt that it gave me a bigger opportunity for more international work afterwards with different organizations.
And what was the application procedure like to get into Italy? Like, what did you have to do?
So, so with Italy, it's quite simple because a lot of students here can get into medical school straight from high school. So what
Oh,
I basically did from Italy's perspective, I did an extra bachelor's degree that I wouldn't have had to do, but in retrospect, I think it prepared me so well for this medical school, and it's definitely matured me as a student. So I could tell a big difference between some students around me and myself. So there's no I'm not regretting, yeah, per se.
well, that's good to hear. And do you have to speak Italian for this program, or how are you
No, I
doing
chose
that?
so the programs I chose were all in English. So they do require you to learn a bit over a basic amount of language so you could interact with the patients. the the local patients, but everything is taught in English.
Okay,
But
and
that
how
was
long?
another aspect. Sorry, that was
Oh, go
another
ahead.
aspect I really liked about medical school abroad was because you were sort of forced to learn another language, and I always wanted to learn more languages. That's the same reason why I studied abroad in France, and I wanted to learn Spanish or another language similar to Spanish, and so Italian worked really well for me.
Oh, fantastic. And how's the language going so far?
It's going all right. It's going all right. I wouldn't say I have any particular advantage, um, but I think as long as you're interested or you have a particular goal in mind, I, language learning doesn't take too much effort. My particular goal is to eventually work in a developing country. So I took French and I took French ab initio at UNIS as well with Madame Do. But um, I I want to either end up in West Africa, in the Francophone countries, or South America. So to be flexible in the future, I wanted to cover those two languages. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic. This sounds very forward thinking. And so how many years is your program now?
it's as opposed to 4 years in the States, it's 6 years here in the U. And I actually just started last year, so I'm about to finish my first year.
Okay. And and it's gone well, it sounds like, because you've got your maturity and you've already learned a bunch of things as well.
I think so. Yes, and I'll tell you, IB does help, especially I did higher level chemistry and biology, um, and that's definitely helped for sure. Um, if you're going to medicine, it's not an easy, it's not a breeze. But if you're doing uh, bachelor, if you don't know what you want to do, and you're going into um, exploring different majors, bachelors, then I think IB sets you up for a really easy time in the university, honestly.
That's great to hear. It's nice to feel that as hard as the IB program is, it is worthwhile in the next stage of your life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That does give you a lot of confidence too.
Oh, that's good to hear. So if you are, so now imagine you're back to being your grade 10 self, so a 15, 16-year-old. If you were to tell yourself like some piece of advice or something like that, what do you wish somebody had told you, or what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Yeah. Be involved with community or communities, groups around you, near you, in your area. Um, and I think if you don't know what you like, just start exploring, sign yourself up to new organizations, groups, because I think the key to a fun and enjoyable life is to build connections. And a lot of opportunities, they come from knowing people, connections, and yeah, building relationships. Because you could look things up and find programs on the internet, but it only gets you so far. And more people you meet and more connections you make, the better. I think the wider the options become, and it when you know you belong in a certain group, you don't have to just belong in one. Like I have a huge community in the States, in Japan, and now starting to build my own here in Italy, and it feels amazing to sort of be a part of. a community. And another reason why I like getting involved with UNIS alumni, because UNIS does feel like a community I belong in, for sure.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. I imagine our advancement team will also love hearing that, to know that this next stage that you go off to, you still feel like you're a part of us.
Yeah, yeah. But when you're 15, 16, you could be a little shy or intimidated by certain people or certain aspect of things. But I, honestly, mistakes you make when you're 15 or 16 are so small in retrospect. So I understand it sounds daunting, but I think if you can put yourself out there, um, just even if you're unsure, signing up to something that might interest you I think, is a great advice I would have given myself.
Awesome. I love it. So, based on that, our students should sign up for more service-oriented things, just get involved and look for ways to connect with people. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it doesn't just have to be service oriented. Like it could be a sports activity. Um, I was involved with a lot of volunteering, but that was just because I liked the medical field, and so I was volunteering through the hospice or Special Olympics or whatnot. But um, I, connections could come from your sports, sport teammate, or if you're unsure about living by yourself or with roommates, I think it'd be a good choice to live with roommates once you graduate from UNIS and you're on your own. Or yeah, I'm obviously depends on personality as well, but I think yeah, just tackling challenges definitely helps me to build connections.
Well, thank you so much, Masatoki. I feel that this is really valuable information. We also have a group of students who are looking at studying medicine, so I'm going to make sure that I specifically share this with them as well. So, thank
Oh,
you for
sounds
being
good.
willing to share that story.
Of course,
Here, I'm
my
just going to
pleasure.
stop recording. Sorry.